This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Guy and Lady Barrel alcohol-infused cigars. These cigars are absolutely incredible, and they are perfect for any occasion. I particularly enjoy their newest flavor, Mojito. I'm not sure if you heard me correctly. I said Mojito-flavored cigar. I don't think it gets much better than that. Now, cigars are best enjoyed with company, so head on over to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and pick up a 5-cigar box set with any flavor of your choice. These cigars are great for birthdays, weddings. They're a great gift. You can give them for almost any occasion. I particularly love to get a cigar out, go on an evening walk, and pray. But you can use it however you want. Once again, thank you to Guy and Lady Barrel Cigars for sponsoring our show. Go to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and see all they have to offer. Please enjoy responsibly. Hey guys, Kevin Hackenberg here, of course, Christians Who Drink Whiskey, Their Open-Minded Friends. This is Funny&Amen, and if you haven't figured it out by now, we like to laugh, so you can abbreviate that effing amen. My good friend Rob Mitchell is here on the podcast, and we're going to talk about so many things. I'm so excited. It's been a little while, but first, let me pour you a drink.
Thank you, sir.
No whiskey today. It's the middle of the workday, as if that mattered to some of you. But we're drinking some of Meg Williams' homemade mint tea. Meg got the idea from my mom. Thank you, Mama Hackenberg. Mama Hackenberg's mint tea is slightly different. It's got a cup of sugar in it. That's how she taught me to make it, and why I was an addict to sugar for all those times. I'm still an addict, but I'm recovering. Cheers. Welcome to the podcast.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah. It's funny.
That's some good tea.
It is really good, yeah. It's funny what you said about drinking in the middle of the workday. Have you ever seen Mad Men on AMC?
Love Mad Men.
It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And it amazes me that they can get anything done when they're drinking like bottles and bottles of whiskey before 3 o'clock. It's like literally one of my favorite shows because
I don't know. I mean, there's occasionally here on the podcast, some friends have showed up around 10, 11, noon. We've done some podcasts at all hours, and if they're drinking, I'm drinking with them. Was the name of the show,
right?
And I'm like, that day is. I'm just not saying I'm not getting anything accomplished, but
right.
the productivity definitely slows down.
Yeah.
Creativity may go up a little bit.
Right, exactly. So it's like if it happens, you got to schedule the rest of the day for just creative free space. It's like, all right, we need some new logos, we need some whatever. Yeah. That's got to be the whole day.
Well, maybe the Mad Men guys, they were in a creative space.
Right.
There's a threshold. There's a threshold to anything. There's a threshold to sugar, and after a while you get diabetes. But didn't stop me from trying. So, welcome to the podcast. A little bit about Rob. We met at the Creation Festival.
Yeah, 2017.
I had a booth for Funny&Amen prior to Funny&Amen. I'm not sure, was it Funny&Amen or was it?
It was Funny&Amen.
Yeah. All right. So, the Creation Festival and I, long history. I made a documentary for them in the 90s and then launched a movie, which is still in development. Some of you guys are, where's the movie? What's up with this whiskey drinking? If you stop drinking whiskey, maybe get this movie made. Maybe. But we developed this movie together, and so we started this relationship of like trying to like reach out to the Christian community. Met you there.
Yeah.
My friend Nick, who's managing my booth, said like,
you
gotta meet this guy, Rob. He's really cool. He's in Philly.
Yeah,
in media. He's like really interested. And so we met there, and then we were both Philly people.
So that was an instant connection.
Yeah. We did a couple of lunches, a couple of coffees later, and and then I had a great Rob's at a great church called Epic.
Yeah.
Working there, shout out to all the people there, and they lent us their office space for a fun little things on our YouTube channel. It was a pitch we did to Roma Downey for a
web series.
It was for a web series, a comedy football web series where the Apostle Paul comes back as a sports commentator, and he doesn't have a clue.
Right.
And if you're watching the YouTube channel, we have a shot of Rob playing the TV producer, And in real life, he is a producer.
Yeah, it wasn't too far from my actual role at the time. The headset that I was wearing was just like the headsets I would end up wearing every Sunday at Epic.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was a fun little shoot. Check that out on our YouTube channel. And now what I'm excited to hear some about, and let you guys know too, is that Rob runs a great little company called Mitchell Media. MitchellMedia.net is where you find him and his services. And here's a little up-and-coming new website banner. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like I was just talking to you the other day because when you were a youth, 2 years ago, you did some YouTubing, like video game YouTubing, right?
Yeah. That
Some
was
success
my
there, right?
first introduction to video production. That was the very beginning. So I went to virtual school, 12 years, at my house, at the desk, homeschooled, but had teachers across the computer.
You were ready for quarantine.
Yeah, you know that's crazy because quarantine was driving me more crazy because it was bringing me backwards to like Zoom meetings 1 inch away from how I did school for 12 years.
Wow.
I mean, it felt like, oh my gosh, like I did not do a single online class throughout college because I had my fill of it.
Yeah.
So I was one of those kids which you hear about online school and it's
was that your parents' version of homeschooling or
yeah. So it was PA virtual charter school.
It's like the lazy version of homeschool.
So it was like it was like
no
homeschooling.
Offense, Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell.
Right? Yeah. I mean, well, they know that they were being lazy with it. But we'll see what they have to say when they call me after seeing this. It was you hear a lot about like cyber schoolers and how like sometimes they're extremely smart and sometimes they just don't do anything and they just look up everything on Google. I was like somewhere in between the middle because I spent almost all of my time, like about 50% of it, not paying attention that much to school and editing video content. I was just shooting and editing and doing that throughout classes, and instead of paying attention in English, I was recording videos and learning how to tweak audio and uploading to YouTube, doing thumbnails.
If you're getting an email from Rob now and there's a lot of misspellings, blame it on him. His English class, virtual English, didn't go so well.
No, it's actually true. I was literally sitting at my desk the other day, typing in a friend's email, and I spelled corporate wrong twice. And I looked at it, and I was like, I know this isn't spelled right, but I was like, where does there's an E or an A somewhere in here. But yeah, I mean, it happens every now and then, and luckily,
I did 12 years of real school and from college, and I still can't spell. So
well, we have autocorrect. I mean, that's amazing thing that we have now. So that was my reasoning as a 12th grader to not know how to spell corporate. But YouTube was it was my thing. Every skill that I didn't become efficient in, that I'm so glad to have Grammarly for, I picked up with everything inside of the YouTube space. I was
How many subscribers? So you did a little video game YouTubing. What game for the gamers, and how many subscribers for the YouTubers?
I think I might have capped out at maybe 1.5 thousand subscribers. And my games, man, I played a lot of weird games. Like a lot of stuff that have very niche specific audiences, like Marvel, as big as it is now, like the MCU, all that stuff. Back in 2010, it was a bit smaller and had a very niche audience for some children's video games. So I was like 12 at the time, like superhero games like that. Played a lot of Team Fortress 2, Transformers games, the good ones, not the film produced ones. And I did a lot of customizing stuff. Like any game that had like an ability to show off some type of like creativity inside of it was what I was into. So like, there's a lot of customizing to be done with those games, and it was fun. Like
my son and I just made a video game on Bloxels. You ever heard of Bloxels?
Bloxels. It must be somewhere between Roblox and Minecraft, right? Like
It actually brought me back to like basic because you make these little like 8-bit characters,
gotcha.
Like Super Mario type character. Actually, lower than that, older than Super Mario, just regular Mario, Donkey Kong stuff, and it was really kind of that creativity in computing. It was kind of fun,
Yeah. So I did that for years, and then I don't think you can find any of that. I put it all on.
Archived it. Yeah.
Archived all of it. Tried to restart the channel, and then.
And then you worked for a church for a while, where we collaborated last, I guess, and then and now you're of your own company. Tell us a little about Mitchell Media.
Mitchell Media. Is a total like creation of entrepreneurial spirit. Like in the sense that, I mean, that's any business really that exists, is it comes from an entrepreneurial spirit. But when I was leaving my position with Epic, I just knew that I wanted to start something. I always knew I wanted to start something. Both of my parents are small business owners, and it was just in me to like create. Like I'd done so much video stuff with them, so much graphic stuff, so much social media stuff, that I just knew that there was some place I could do stuff that I enjoyed and I could put my creativity into, but also help more people than just people in the nonprofit sector, because I'd worked at several other nonprofits before Epic, and I just wanted to reach as many business owners as I could and help them bring something creative and something unique to their brand. So in 2019, January, we started Mitchell Media, and we just started hooking up with a bunch of businesses, a lot of conventions and music festivals, and just started shooting and editing and pushing stuff out on social, weekly content, daily content sometimes.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I think that when we first sat down after the Christian Fest, I recognized that entrepreneurial spirit in you. I think you might have been before you were working at Epic, or right in the earliest part of it. But
I was interning, I think. Yeah.
But we just had like all these conversations about business, and like it was just really great.
Yeah.
And it was interesting what you said about your parents being entrepreneurs, having their own businesses. My dad's a world famous migratory beekeeper, which is like a weird business, but learning. I think I got my entrepreneurial spirit from his entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like be like, hey, let's figure this out and figure out how to make money at it.
Especially for such a niche thing as that. I mean, it's like you got to know your target market really well. I mean, that's
Well, he grew up. It's so interesting. You say it's so niche, but my dad grew up on farm and around farmers and in agriculture. And
well, if you know it, then you
make
know
a product.
Yeah.
Corn, wheat, whatever, cows, pigs, and you take it to market. And so it's. I don't think it was that. It was definitely unique,
right?
Even for the agriculture business, but he just fell into it, and the opportunity came up. And I think it's. Do you find that what you're doing is foraging, or just finding opportunities? Is it what's the challenge there? For being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, it feels funny enough. Even though my parents did a lot of trailblazing for me, it does feel like trailblazing in a way. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that all of my colleagues from high school, everyone who I knew in college, none of them started businesses. Like none of them even considered it, because it's just, for millennial/Gen Z, it's just not considered a stable option. So it's been very challenging, like trying to move forward and like, forging and creating without like a lot of other people who are on the same path, and a lot of people who don't understand what it's like to try to push out on that path. I mean, it's been really interesting. Yeah.
How far in the forging, in the pioneering, in the trailblazing, how do you feel like you've arrived, or do you feel like you're just cut down the first couple brush to realize there's a forest behind you?
Oh man, before COVID,
Yeah.
I felt like we were just getting ready to pull up and park the vehicle. Like we were just like getting to the destination. It's like we can see the parking lot. We just got to pull in and then bang, we're here.
Yeah.
Like we're done. We've been on the road for weeks. And because we were getting ready to go into like a lot of contracts with entertainment and bars, so we had a lot of stuff lined up, and then
entertainment
COVID
bars
came in.
bars.
It's all gone. There's no festivals, there's no concerts, there's no like all of that's gone, and that was our main thing that we did well. Like it was photo, video, and really covering those events and promoting it across social. So all that disappeared. And now
Wow.
it's
Wow,
like
man.
reinventing again. You know, it's like I didn't think it would happen so soon.
Yeah.
But you know, honestly, like it's all God that, you know, like starting our second year out of nowhere, everything disappeared and somehow we're still here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was like completely him.
Yeah.
Like it would not make any logical sense for us to still be around after
Yeah.
taking probably 70% revenue cut.
Yeah.
When all the shutdowns first happened.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah. Well, that affected a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've been in the film business one point or another for like, 25 years. And I've been taking this class out in LA called Act One. Go Jimmy Duke. Great program. And I had my one-on-one with him like a few hours ago. And he was like, no one in entertainment feels like they ever made it, because they know that they're like, even like, the guy who, all these people don't feel like they've made it because they're like one step away from like
Right.
not making it, like
Oh, right.
or
It's like-
falling off the path
right,
or
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. It's like failure is like a rabid dog chasing right behind.
Yeah, there's like one.
Yeah.
It's like, he's like the worst news is you're only one film away from getting to the next step.
Yeah.
The next step may not be where you want the next step to be, but it's the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I think that entrepreneurial spirit is always pioneering and always, for me, I was talking to another colleague and I was just saying that fear of missing out sometimes. I want to twist that into an appreciation for participating.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
To kind of like calm down and just relax, just be like, hey, look what I got to do the last couple years.
Right, yeah,
And
yeah.
COVID happened. Oh, whoops. Let's figure out what we're going to do next to. So so to me, I think there's always in the entrepreneurship side of things, for me, I've arrived and then realized I'll go a little further into the woods. I'll go a little further into the woods,
Yeah. I mean, even with like, we did a heavy restructure because of COVID to like really pivot into doing more traditional, well, not traditional, but less events-based marketing for businesses. So we went from doing like just basically anything that had to do with events and people to now working in, which sounds completely different, health and fitness. Because it's the one that's still around. And we have a fantastic client in health and fitness that really helped us like figure out that formula and how to bring results for that. And now we're just like focusing only on that.
That's awesome.
And then of course, the second that comes to me, God drops that idea. He's like, all right, restructure the business this way. We finished all the paperwork. And then I'm thinking, okay, so as soon as we get this many clients in health and fitness, we just got to go and do construction. And then we got to do real estate. And then we got to go back to entertainment once everything opens back up. And then I'm like, oh, but we could end up doing hospitality. We could do this. We could do that. And then I'm just like, at the end of the like 5 minutes after finishing a huge restructure, I'm like, let's just take over all Philly. Like let's just do marketing for everything that could exist. And part of it comes from the place that there's so many, and I really have to thank my team. Like I have a very creative and talented and diligent team that's helped us to be able to keep going through all of this.
Nice.
And like seeing how much we all bring to the table is what gives me that like constant feeling of like we can do more, we can keep going, like the sky is the limit.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Do you feel like you're like bringing on a team? Was that nervous to take that responsibility, or just needed?
It was
or desired.
Yeah, it was desired. Yeah, that's a perfect word. It was desired and needed for me, because I'm a very people-oriented person. I've just always wanted to collaborate with people. It just makes my creations better. It makes what I can do like so much better when I can run things through with other people. So part of it was necessary because we needed more diverse skill sets. I'm not a brilliant photographer, but my friend Chrissy is. My friend An is, and I ended up asking them, hey, can you come in and do a couple shoots? Can you help me out with this and edit that? And a couple different favors like that to different people. And then after a while, it was like, okay, well, we should probably write a job description for you, and we should probably like hook up a system for like who gets what and all this stuff. And then it just turned into, an awesome group of people who
awesome.
really get stuff done.
So you're like you're the producer. You're the guy kind of like finding a need and then turn around and be like, hey, who's with me?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I am not. It's like I think every entrepreneur needs to know, and it helps when you're working in the normal workplace as well. Are you a Steve Jobs or are you Steve Wozniak? Are you the visionary, the guy who's going to have the branding, the guy who's going to assemble the team, know what needs to get done, and then, of course, nail sales, which is a huge part.
Yeah.
You are your biggest salesman if you're a business owner. Or are you the Wozniak, which has the great idea for the product, knows exactly how every single gear turns and it connects to what power source. And, like when he made those Mac computers, it's like Steve Jobs didn't know. I think people say this. I don't really know because I didn't look it up. But people say...
Steve, rest in peace.
Right,
He's not going to call.
Right.
He's not going to be like, if someone says Steve Jobs on the comments below, then he's back.
Right. But they say that he wasn't like a brilliant coder. It wasn't like doing, the iPhones and everything. Apple and Mac has taken over everything. It was his brand where he brought that value. And then Wozniak was the guy who knew how to put it all together and make a product that was actually functional. So like as an entrepreneur, like I had to recognize I'm 100% job, or I don't know, maybe 80% Jobs, 20% Wozniak. I knew how to edit videos, I knew how to do a lot of it, but I didn't even keep up with the tech myself. It's like as soon as I stopped doing my YouTube videos, I didn't keep up with editing. It wasn't something that I practiced often. Like working in any creative field is like going to the gym. It's like if you stop going to the gym for a week, your body's gonna hit sore really hard on Monday.
I feel like you're talking about me personally now.
No. Well, I mean, I haven't been in the gym in several weeks,
Okay.
But it's the same thing with like editing or photo, video, any of that. It's like you step away from it long enough, and the tech zooms right past you. It's like a constant race. So I knew that there would be people who loved doing that, and I didn't love doing that.
It's awesome, man.
I like coming up with ideas.
What's your favorite thing, that you guys have done? You did Comic-Con here in Philly, right?
Yeah.
That's one very interesting. Comic-Con's always a lot of very colorful.
It was very colorful. It was very fun. I mean, I was a huge comic book nerd growing up.
Yeah.
So I loved Comic-Con. I loved going to see the movies, and I watched all the TV shows, and I read comics, and I collected paraphernalia and so forth. So it was really great, like as an adult, to go and do that.
Nice.
And then, we ended up doing PR for Creation Fest, which was great. I'm on the press team. We've done a lot of stuff, surprisingly, for only almost a year and a half now. I don't know if I have a favorite. It's like so hard. I mean, I have to say, like, Creation Fest was probably the most memorable. Simply because Comic-Con was huge. I mean, it was just like there was so much stuff going on, and I was exhausted the entire time. I was still meeting with clients throughout that weekend. I was running around like all over the place, so I didn't even get to like, breathe that in. We got to do a lot of great community events in Philly. There's a lot of stuff we did. But Creation Fest is always the one that comes back to me just because it's very personal. Like I've been going to Creation Fest since 2016. My sister had been going since for years prior, and I just never ended up going until then. And not only the faith connection, which is super important. I mean, that is it. It was really great to be able to like serve and bring my creative gifts into something that was helping people to get to know Jesus. And on top of that, it was really great to get backstage and meet some of my favorite artists.
Who are some of the people you got to meet?
Andy Mineo was like the one who just blew me away. I was like, I had like a list of celebrities who, should I meet them, I don't know if I would be able to put myself together. And Mineo was on that list. So I was surprised I said anything that made any sense.
How did you do?
I give myself a 3 out of 5.
All right, good.
So just pass it.
Did it used to be a 3 out of 10, and you kind of like brought it down?
I had to scale a little bit for the podcast. I didn't want to look too nerdy. I mean, I definitely like geeked out and was. So he did this podcast, the Work in Progress podcast, and we had a it was an album, EP, one or the other, that came out called Work in Progress, where he released all of these songs that were leftovers from other projects that he'd worked on. And then a podcast episode came with each one to explain what he was going through creatively and like why he didn't put it on this album or why he didn't release it whenever. And when I met him, I was like, that was so brilliant. Like, did you like have a team come up with that, or like how did that happen? And he was just like, you know, it was something that came to me. And you know, yeah, and I got to talk to him twice, but it was such a great experience because like, you know, I had seen him perform so many times. I'd listened to his music for so long. He's been a huge inspiration to me in many different walks of my life, like in some senses as an entrepreneur, you know, as someone who's trailblazed with his own music. Also just in his faith walk and his vulnerability and the things he shares through his music. But I think my highlight of the whole festival, and this is probably why Creation is my favorite thing that I've ever done, was that and my production assistant, he quotes this back to me all the time. He's always like, dude, you remember when he said that? I was like, I know, that was crazy. He had finished his set for the festival. He was right before the closing act, and it was amazing. You know, we shot videos for it. We were on stage. We were under the stage. We were everywhere. It was so fun. And then when he got off the stage, some of the other PR guys, you know, were all sitting around, and he ended up coming off stage and talking to us for a minute. And he was like, yeah, man, you know, it was great and all, but like, you know, I didn't have all the fireworks and whatever, and I you know, I'm not Skillet, because Skillet was coming on next, you know. And like, you know, if you know Christian music, Skillet's like huge, like giant following in both Christian culture and just like,
and they have a lot of
secular,
a lot of pyrotechnics.
A lot of pyrotechnics. So you know, he had this like air as he was talking, like as if, you know, he wasn't the closing act for a reason. Yeah. And I was like, man, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, cut that out. You had people up on stage with you that you pulled out of the audience, like you interact with people, you do freestyles, like the way that you just flow in the spirit when you get up there with your creativity is a memorable experience that no amounts of lights and sounds could beat. And he was like, I like this guy. And my production assistant always says that David, he's not my assistant now.
I like this guy.
Yeah, he always says that to me. Like, I'll see him at church and he'll be like, you remember that time a video was like, I like this guy. So that's I think that's my favorite moment.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's awesome.
Because that dude's amazing.
I think that it's interesting. That's interesting to hear. So Andy Mineo, you know, faith-based hip-hop guy, entrepreneur, everything. Check out his work. Excellent stuff. I think it's interesting that in the not just the creatives like you and me, and entrepreneurs like you and me, or just men like you and me, humans like you, me, and her, and they. But I think there's always this longing for something more, and that more might be being more creative, or being more loved, or being more rich. I don't know what it is. Being more lazy, you know, virtual homeschool. Meg, I'm talking to you too. We can think about that for later. But what I think that's interesting is that idea, that longing that's amongst us. You know? And so even like someone at the top of their game still has that like longing, you know, to or comparing even. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? And maybe it's just like what do you got in your pocket? I got some creativity. You got some pyrotechnics. You know.
Yeah. And it's like I can only imagine as like an artist, it's like that feeling of never being able to reach as wide of an audience or something like that. You know, it's like that's got to be like comparisons. It's so easy. It's like easily. You know, there's so many different things that you can struggle with as an entrepreneur, but then also just as a person, you know, from jealousy and, you know, like just so many different, like, just, I can't even think of, like,
jealousy used to hit me hard, man.
Yeah. Like when you were starting or, like, all the way through?
This morning.
Yeah.
No, I remember it was with girls, like in college, like what, you know, you get friended and you're before friending when Facebook was a good thing. It was like right. I got friended. Ooh, dude, sorry,
the friend zone. Whew. You have to tell me about that.
Or whatever, man. You're just like, jobs or, opportunity, everything, all the desires.
Yeah.
All the desires of man or womanhood, to, it's like, my wife and I, we just celebrated our 13th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it was great. It was perfect for 2020. Nothing was open, and and a couple of our plans fell through. So it was like 13th anniversary 2020. Very memorable for the year.
Yeah, we'll not forget that one.
But we were together, and that brought us peace.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had this good discussion about, like, hey, what brings you peace? For me, it's like putting down the cell phone, putting down the cameras, going out for a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
Hiking the woods.
Yeah.
Maybe a bike ride or something like that.
Yeah.
For my wife, it was like having a regular schedule. Sorry, baby, you're married to me.
Entrepreneurs will never have that.
Yeah, and so we were just kind of like discussing amongst ourselves what brings us peace, because we want to be able to, like, we're seeing some things in our kids and being like, hey, like, are you at peace? Asher, are you at peace, Jake? And if so, if not, like, what brings you peace? And how can we kind of, like, schedule some time for activities, or for me it's an activity, getting out. For my wife, it's a rhythm. Question: what brings you peace?
Wow. Well, some of the things you said, nature, huge. I went on a hike with my buddy Ron Wednesday morning, and that literally changed my day. Yeah. I don't always make the time for that, like, to do like a full hike, but in the mornings, usually about 4 or 5 times a week, I just go to the park from like 6 a.m. to 7.
Yeah.
And then that's just like so refreshing for me. I used to ride my bike constantly when we were working in our office in the city, which we're not doing now because of COVID. I would ride my bike, and literally just the ride from my house to the train station changed my day.
Yeah.
Like, just being able to hit the wind, and even in the city, like, not really having like all the trails or anything to run with your bike, that it would bring me a lot of peace. And then something else is just kind of exercising your going towards your creative endeavors that aren't the ones that are making you money. That's the fun stuff. It's like, because I love doing everything with Mitchell Media. I love sitting down with my clients. I love making their marketing plans and doing rollout strategies for new products or services. Love doing that.
Yeah.
I love meeting with my team. I love training people. That's a huge thing that I love doing.
Yeah.
But there's a level of seriousness to it.
Yeah.
That you don't get that same pure enjoyment, no pressure.
Yeah.
And right?
Yeah.
And where I get my pure enjoyment with no pressure is drawing and writing. So, like I said, I've been big into comic books for my entire life. And one of my favorite hobbies that I've been working on a TV series since like 2013.
Okay.
That at some point will get pitched to Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm not in a rush with it. It's one of those things where it's like, I love doing this on the side. This is my baby.
Yeah.
It's no one has any hands on it right now that's gonna push me towards doing more. And I feel like, I just love writing the characters and all that. At some point it'll come around to being like the perfect thing that's ready, and things in my life will be smooth and normal, and I'll say, hey, you know what? Let's pitch this or whatever. Let's do a quick animation test or something.
Yeah, cool.
So that's like my one fun thing that I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. It's been a half or more. Let's take a little quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive even deeper with Rob Mitchell. I'm super excited. You've been watching and listening to Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Open-Minded Friends. Thanks for being here, friend. This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Dad's Hat Pennsylvania Rye Whiskey. Dad's Hat is real rye whiskey made the right way. This month's featured bottle is Classic Rye. Barrel aged for at least 6 months in charred new oak quarter cask allows the genuine rye flavor to evolve quickly. As a result, this small batch whiskey is ensured of reaching the right balance of complexity and smoothness. The final product is a very smooth spirit that delivers upfront spice that rye is known for, while finishing with a full, round mouthfeel. To find a distributor of this award-winning whiskey, head on over to dadshatrye.com Or if you're a Pennsylvania resident, you can have any of their delicious rye whiskeys delivered right to your door. Trust the distillery with over 200 years of American distilling tradition, Dad's Hat Rye. Please enjoy responsibly.
I even, like, I love that that's something that you ask your kids. That's, like, really
Haven't
great.
yet, but my son, where's your piece? My son gets very jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this toy isn't the toy I wanted. I wanted that toy. I'm like, a second ago, they were both wrapped.
Right. I
like,
was like that too.
Which one has my name on it?
Yeah.
And now they're opened, and 9 times out of 10, you're not at peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so it's not getting a gift. It's not getting 2 different gifts. That's not what brings in peace, you know.
Right.
That's what I asked him. What brings you peace, man? When do you feel like super happy? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe that's a question that he won't even know now or even understand now.
Yeah.
But later can identify.
No, I think that's a really good thing. I mean, like, because the thing about kids is that they only identify what concepts you give to them.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like bringing... If I had... Man, if my parents had, like, gone out of their way to ask me that, and then I would have had to think about it, I would have been like, I don't know. What brings me peace? What does that mean? Like, what is the difference between when I'm running at full speed? I was obsessed with Thomas trains growing up.
Yeah,
I just didn't give those things a break.
Yeah.
I literally... Until I was 8 years old, I obsessively collected those things. And just like you were saying with your son, it was one of those things of like, buy. Okay, now I want the next one. Mm-hmm. You know? And, and that mentality just followed me later into life until I sat down with a friend, when was it? 2 years ago, maybe. And I was like, I don't know what my hobbies are. I was like, I don't know what I do for fun. I just work. I just grew up in a really high productive household, and I just work.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love that.
Hey, we're back. Maybe Derek, my producer, included a little bit of that. Who knows? But anyway, this is Christians Drink Whiskey with Open-Minded Friends. We got some great sponsors. We got Dad's Hat Whiskey as a sponsor. Check them out. And there's more sponsors on the way. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Thank you to Funny&Amen, to our patrons who support these and other conversations. You know, comedy's not all about laughs and giggles, although it should be. But in the meantime, we're trying to talk about what's real, and so we're going to dive into some more deep conversation here. I'm super excited. This is my favorite question of all time because I'm a big fan of Jesus, action figure. I'm a real fan of the real guy.
Yeah.
And so I asked this question to all my guests, whether they're Jesus freaks or not. But what do you think of Jesus?
I think, man, this is crazy because I've been having so many conversations with people over the last couple of weeks about what it really means to like know and follow God and who God is and who Jesus is. And all I can think when I hear the question, what do I think of Jesus, is just, I think that he's the best thing that's ever been in my life, the best part of my life, the only thing in my life that's been consistent even when I wasn't consistent, and even when, for, just a concept of faith that you can't even see, most of the time. Like when I wake up, I don't think about the fact that it's a miracle that I didn't have an aneurysm in the middle of the night, because it's just, you don't see it, you don't think about it. But I just had an experience this past week where it was one of those very clear, like, wow, this could have been so much worse, or this could have been so much different. And it was an absolute Jesus thing. And just, I think that I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in love.
Yeah. No doubt.
Is your family religious? Did you kind of like ever, if they're religious, do you ever like kind of like ease in and out of that or identify that for yourself at some point?
Oh yeah. So my parents, my mom grew up in a Christian household, somewhat. Her mother, my grandmother, amazingly very deep, very spiritual woman. Her father was not. And then my father, he grew up in a household that came to God much later. So he was like a little bit younger than I am now when he started his relationship with God. And so obviously by the time I came around many years later, they had created like a very strong household based around faith. So it was something that was always a part of my life, but I definitely did move in and out of strongly identifying as a Christian and wearing it as a name tag and not living it out. It's like funny, my friends and I talk really often, my friends who grew up in Christian households, about how easy it is to get disassociated with Christianity when it's something that's like kind of a given, like something you're used to existing. And you don't really experience that change of like, wow, my life used to be this way, things changed, and now that God's in here, I can feel the difference. It's like I've just been, he's been here. He's like a next door neighbor. So yeah, Jesus is here. Okay, cool, yeah. I definitely went through a lot of parts of my life where I was just a lot less connected with him spiritually. In high school, I was a lot way less involved with my faith. It wasn't really until like early college, that it became very real for me. Yeah, and then even then, there was another year of a really rough time. And then
gotcha.
Coming back again in an even better capacity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Another question, and this came, thank you, Anthony Warren, for inspiring this question. Have you ever had an encounter, a paranormal experience, a supernatural experience, a spiritual experience that didn't seem to follow typical, earthly physics or whatever, or not? I mean physics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got too narrow.
No, I get what you mean.
But have you had, like in Christian circles, we talk about, I got a spiritual experience, or God spoke to me, and in kind of moments like that, or in sometimes what I was, part of this question arises from me spending a night in a friend's house that she says is haunted, and so I'm like, let me broaden out from Christian circles to like spiritual or to paranormal. So any spiritual or paranormal personal experiences?
I've had a lot of experiences where it's been like, wow, the timing of that was impeccable. Like even even like we mentioned before, how we met, and we met through Nick.
Yeah.
I had an experience where, and this is like a very simple one. I've had a lot of timing things happen like this, where I had some serious bills that came in, and I was leaving a job, and I was like hemorrhaging money out of nowhere. It was just one of those things where like just in a month there was 1,000 things that need to be paid for and not money coming in. Because I left the job, so I wasn't getting unemployment or anything. I didn't get fired or laid off. And literally that exact week I was like, God, I'm praying. I'm like, I don't know how in the world I'm going to take care of this, but I need you to handle it. And I think it was that next day I got a call from Nick to do a contract with him that paid all of it and more. Like I've had a lot of those experiences with God. Like even like I was just like
shout out to Nick Huntington.
Oh yeah,
Boom.
that's my guy.
Yeah.
Even when was it? This past week, when I was in a car accident, it was one of those experiences of, wow, I mean, this sucks, but if it was like literally a couple inches difference of where I got hit, I could have lost a leg. The hike I went on that morning might have been the last hike I ever went on.
Wow.
Like it was like many experiences like that with God. But I think there's two different stories I think of being very supernatural in the sense that it went against, or actually three, where it went against like all logic. There was one time when I first started Mitchell Media, we had gotten out of the summer circuit of doing heavy video, heavy photo. All the events were going on. I was getting ready to burn out. And before I'd reached that burnout officially, God said, you know what? Just don't worry about getting new clients. Take the next 3 months and just take care of the people that you have. And don't work on getting anything new. And every business book and everything I ever learned in college would have said, that's a terrible idea. Every mentor would have said, no, never do that. And he said, just take time off until November. And that was after a lot of intense praying. And those couple months were kind of rough, actually. They really sucked. And the first week of November, I got a call every day that week for business. New business.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, that's one where it's like it goes against, like, logic or, like, you know, the things that we tend to drive in the path of in the sense of what makes sense just out of our own understanding. Yeah. But even when I was a kid, I think it was around 7 or 8 years old, my whole family got really sick. We all had the flu. We had the flu so bad that we were literally in our home, spread out like on the floor. Like my sister was like asleep on the kitchen floor because we were just so sick and the fevers were so high that it'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the kitchen and then I'm gonna take a nap and then I'm gonna get back up and I'll make some get some orange juice and make some PB&J and I would fall asleep in the hallway and my parents would make their way slowly back into bed and we literally were all immobilized for like it was like a week or longer. You know, I was like COVID bad. I don't know if it's COVID bad, but you know, it was bad.
Yeah.
And well, I will say maybe it was, you know, just about COVID bad because my temperature had gotten out of control. Now we were all so sick that we were barely capable of taking care of ourselves. We definitely weren't really taking care of each other. You know, people would come and drop off medicine and stuff for us, but they weren't coming in because we were crazy sick. You know, you didn't want to come in there. And my fever was so high, or had gotten so high, that I had a seizure at 7 or 8 years old, and no one knew that I was having a seizure because everyone was asleep. My sister saw me, you know, convulsing and, you know, foaming on the floor. She woke up my parents. I believe this is how it happened. Britt, you can tell me if it was different. And if you know, with seizures, you have to get a kid at that age to the hospital in like less than 15 minutes or they're going to get serious permanent brain damage or die. I did not get there in 15 minutes.
Wow.
It took a lot longer because no one knew how long I was seizing before they noticed it. Then it took time for the ambulance to get there and it took time for me to get to the hospital. And I remember I didn't, you know, obviously I was not conscious for any of that. I just woke up in the hospital. And the first thing that I did when I woke up in the hospital, my parents are there, you know, obviously everyone's upset, my sister's there, and I just started cracking jokes. And I remember my mom being so taken back by that, and she was like, I hope you really understand that God just saved you, because we didn't know if you were going to wake back up, and we didn't know where your mind was going to be. We didn't know if you were, you know, we didn't know what was going to be.
If you're going to be a vegetable.
Right, yeah. And I woke up, I was just like, I made some joke, I don't remember I remember it had something to do with golf balls. But I don't remember what it was. And
they say in comedy, know your audience. Your audience was not ready for humor.
They were not ready for humor on the MRI scan in the emergency room or whatever, wherever I was. And that was one of those experiences. You know, I didn't have like a crazy dream. I didn't see God. I didn't go through gates or a bright light or hear a voice. None of that happened. But I do remember there being peace. And I remember knowing so clearly that there was someone much greater than me looking out for me, even when I didn't understand who they were yet.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a little compilation of
compilation of the paranormal, spiritual, supernatural.
Mitchell tales.
Mitchell tales.
Speaking of vegetables, veggie tales. Mitchell
tales. So, what is something regarding religion? You know, what's interesting about Funny&Amen, I started this out of a spiritual experience and just wanted to kind of bring conversation back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's too much heated debate. Bring conversation back. So, what are some things that people, whether it's religion or a topic, that people don't talk enough about? We don't have conversations about. Maybe we're scared to have conversations about.
Man, this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I think think we don't have enough conversations in at least in the faiths that I've been in, or not the faiths, but the religious circles that I've been in. Some have talked about it more, some haven't, and some have railed on it to a very poor extent. But really just sin. Like, in a very weird sense, it's something that's very scary to talk about, because you don't really want to talk to someone else and express that this is something that is very clearly outlined in the Bible as not okay. It's hard to have that conversation, and it's hard to preach on it because you don't want to condemn and make a big fear thing out of it. It's just like, sin, 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 you can't do this, you can't do that, no, 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 and there's a lot of churches that do that. There's a lot of, denominations that focus a lot more on that. And then, but you also don't want it to be non-existent, because we talk, there's so many churches that hardly ever touch on sin and have a very extremely grace-based culture. And there's a balance of the two that is so crucial and is honestly caused a lot of healing in my own life, of recognizing that there are things that I do that are absolutely sins. And even completely unreligious based psychologists will tell you that the things that are in the 10 Commandments, those things hurt you. Legitimately. It's those will all harm you. Having an increase, we were talking about jealousy, it's just having a chronic attraction to finding everything that you don't have is an actual psychological issue. So a lot of these things that are outlined in the Bible are absolutely real principles of mental health. And to me, recognizing sin more clearly in my life has helped me to have more mental health. And that's where I think that it's something that people are really uncomfortable with talking about, but it should be talked about more.
It's really interesting, the idea of acceptance. To see someone who doesn't believe the same things as you.
Yeah.
And to accept them, but to not ever talk about the word sin. I find I'm excited because I got some podcasts coming up with people that believe exactly, not opposite. I mean, there's an opposite.
Yeah.
They believe way differently than me, and I'm super excited for these podcasts coming up, because I want to know, those 10 Commandments kind of identify right and wrong according to how we believe God stands. But what's the moral basis for stuff? If we're is it just hey, we're evolved animals and we've figured out how to form a society, and these rules, some of them that align with these 10 Commandments, are good to follow for psychological reasons or community reasons? But what is there? It's always fascinating to me. Is there a for non-religious, non-Christian people, is there a what's the moral basis for those things?
Yeah.
So that to me is fascinating. I don't.
It is.
But I think that for us as Christians to not talk about those definitions, and why for mental health, why for interpersonal health, why for big community health, those things are not good. Why in the Bible God says those things are not good. I think that we just don't talk about it enough because we're trying to be, like you said, maybe too gracious or whatever.
Which is obviously grace is a super important principle in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's the idea that literally I can
back
struggle.
To Jesus.
Yes,
Grace.
always back.
Thank you.
It's he died for us. He died for us to not live in those sins, to not be consumed by it, and that all we have to do is come back and seek forgiveness from Him, and we're just done. It's out.
Yeah.
It's not something that we will be defined by unless we allow ourselves to be defined by it.
It's interesting. I had a guest on the show who formerly was alcoholic, who had an addiction to that. I've had addictions myself, and to be consumed.
Yeah.
by that thing you don't have, or that thing you do, that substance you do have and are abusing. I think that's to just be honest with each other. I think that, to me, one of the things we don't talk about enough is being honest with each other and saying, hey, Rob, man, I've been noticing this thing.
No,
I'm telling you because I love you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you because I love you. Like, it's challenging, man. That's a challenging conversation to have because you have to be open-minded.
Right.
Show title. Open-minded to accept that I could see something that's important for you.
Yeah.
That you have to make a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where culture comes in. It's like you have to. It's been so important to me to plug into a church culture where that exists, where people can be that level of brutally honest but connected in the spirit to where you can actually say it in love. You know, because there's been a lot of things that I've not said in love to people. There have been a lot of things.
I don't know anything what you're talking about.
And, you know, finding that culture inside of a church where you can have both, you know, is so important. That's made a lot of change in my life, of having people in my life who can say, you know, I sat down with a friend of mine, my friend Mike, the other day, and I just told him about all these things that I was struggling with, and relationships and business and just like my friends and just like different things that I was going through. And I'm like, Mike, I know I'm saying crazy stuff right now. I realize that. I realize that a lot of this is illogical, and that's because I have like a weird sense of self-awareness about myself. But even if you don't, you know, you shouldn't be afraid to walk up to a friend of yours who says they believe in Jesus, and even if they have a pastoral position, or if they've been like, they're like just way more knowledgeable than you, you should have an environment where you can just walk up to someone and say, hey, I'm seriously dealing with something that's like disrupting my mental health and disrupting my wellness. And I know that there's got to be something that Jesus has for me, but I haven't even had the clarity in my own mind to figure out where he is. Yeah. You know? And, you know, I'm talking to him about this, and he's like, Rob, you were just dealing with like A, B, C, and D. And I was like, man. And it kind of, you know, it always stings a little bit, but I was like, that's true.
So it's interesting. I think that sometimes we go to people and we just want to vent.
Yeah.
We just want to vent. What I've experienced in vent, I like seeing problems and helping solve them, which is probably bad. Some people sometimes you just need to vent.
Yeah.
But I think that I love when I can vent and people will say like, hey man, what about, that sounds like something you could have controlled.
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity there for us all to grow and listen. What can I have done what did I do to add to this problem?
And take responsibility for
this conflict.
Yeah.
And it takes two to tango, but I walked into that dance myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I walked onto the dance floor, you know?
Yeah.
I could have left the dance floor, I could have left that conflict, I could have I could have said, hey, instead of tangoing, let's do this.
Right.
And I think that's where it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get to there, but I think that when you can do it and see the mental health that comes from it, the blessing, the opportunities, that's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like even with like we were talking about drinking before, it's like that was something that I had to change in my life from just recognizing the patterns that would happen in my life when I would drink. This is interesting. So. And it only came from that same brutal honesty that I could realize that. So my parents, neither of them drink. They've been very, like, I grew up in a household that was very, like, no drinking. And that was because my mother grew up with one parent that was an alcoholic, and my father grew up with two parents who struggled with it. Or a parent and a step-parent. And that created a very fearful culture of alcohol. So a little into college, I was like, I don't want to be afraid of this. So I need to start trying it so I'm not afraid. And obviously, once you're not afraid of it anymore, it's a lot easier to continue with it.
Yeah.
And really, I didn't have a lot of, I had like no experiences drinking where I was like, blacked out or hungover or anything crazy happened where I was just like, this is just like too much and this is, I gotta stop. Like, you know what I mean? I was never even like being drawn back to it in a way where I was very addicted. I never kept any in my house. But I was also working in a bar too, so I got a lot of got a lot of free alcohol. What I had to realize, and this was through having conversations with friends who could say those brutally honest things to me, was that they just would notice things and it would line up with thoughts that I was having, and I realized that there was not a single time that I struggled as much with coveting, jealousy, and feeling like having major identity issues as when I would drink. And for maybe about 3 days afterwards, I would still feel very consumed by the thoughts that would come to me when I was drunk.
Wow.
And that was when I decided I'm going to drop this one.
Yeah.
And it was feeding into other addictions that I was already struggling with. Like I was struggling a lot with, I'm still getting through this, but with porn.
Yeah.
And I was just noticing that that need to be the center of attention when I was drinking, that need to just be just everything. Like I just wanted to be in the center. Would just follow me for days. I would still be thinking about my skewed perception of things while I was drinking and trying to compensate for it with any addiction that I was dealing with, which really was just pornography. That's probably the biggest thing that I've struggled with through my entire life. More than drinking, that was easy to drop. More than even gaming was really an addiction for me, because you can just get that dopamine high over and over. Sugar, like we were talking about, those used to the worst point in my life was just sugar, porn, and games, back to back to back, and it just hits you with so much dopamine that you want to kill yourself washing the dishes. Because it's this is so boring. Yeah. I'm not high right now, and that's very much what it does. And all of those things just got so interconnected.
That's a Weezer lyric, masturbation's lost its fun. This conversation is going that way. I think it's interesting, that. The one thing I want to go back real quick. You said, I'm the center of attention. I think with, I'm the center of attention. It's so interesting. That's I need with sugar, my wife has to hide stuff that she wants to the kids to participate in. I'm talking about sweets. Because I just I want one more. I want one more. I want one more for me. One for you, 3 for me. That's
how my dad taught me about taxes with my.
Where's the grace in that? Where's the grace in that?
Right.
Can you imagine? Jesus is 3 crosses for you, none for me. So you said dad and taxes? What?
Oh, I was saying that's how he taught me about taxes. Was spreading out candy and being okay, so you get one. This is all of yours, and I'm going to take all of this. Yeah. That's how the government works. It was
you're saying I could teach my children about accounting and taxes with sugar?
Yes.
And I could take their candy?
This is your hard-earned pack of Skittles. It is yours. You've bought it.
Halloween's coming, Jake and Asher.
There you go, right? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for teaching him this.
The tax man cometh.
That's exactly what he would do. It's whenever we got candy, it was all right. Gotta pay your taxes. This is rent. This is sales tax. This is property tax.
What about school tax?
Right? Yeah. I mean, all of that. But oh man, yeah. It's you're saying.
Sugar tax, beverage tax.
Right, beverage tax. Oh my gosh, that's a Philly thing that is awful. I mean, jeez.
That's a good time. That's a good time. Yeah, it's all about all about me, man. I gotta remember that one because I struggle with that stuff too. And fascinating.
Yeah.
Woo! That was a good one, man. That was a good conversation. It led us to taxation of candy for your children. All right, let me get another question here. What are the pros and cons with your organized religion?
I think, like we've just been saying, one of the major cons is allowing things to be labeled as taboo. like even like talking about pornography, talking about like things that can take the place of major substance abuse, things that like you notice when someone's an alcoholic, like you know, you notice when someone is struggling with like other substances. It's a lot harder to notice when someone's struggling with porn or even struggling with any other addictions, like
if you notice they're struggling with porn, that's really weird.
That's that's rough. I'm glad I never got that low.
That's where it shows up on your desk at work or something like that. That's a big sign.
Right. That's when you connect to the Wi-Fi printer that accidentally is not in your office.
Yeah.
And then, well, I don't know why no one would be printing that. It's all digital now, but I don't know. Bluetooth speaker. There we go. It's in the living room with your grandmother. It's like, oh. Never had that happen, thank God. But it's funny because I think a lot of those are sobering moments for people too. At the same time,
yeah, totally.
But I think talking about pros and cons, that's
rock bottom. It's a rock
bottom.
Right.
I think a major con is like allowing certain things to reach taboo too much, like talking about sex. Talking about even like abuse and trauma.
Yeah.
It's like that's where like a lot of my issues come from. And it's like we need to like really make it. Counseling needs to be something that is like encouraged.
Yes, man. Yes.
And mental health needs to be talked about more. And not just in a way where it's like, oh, you know what? Depression is bad, but you know what the best antidepressant is? The Bible. And it's like, actually, if you're seriously depressed and all you do is flip through the Bible all day, there could be an actual amazing spiritual moment that happens.
Yeah.
But chances are that's not going to do it all.
Yeah.
There's a serious level of need for therapy and counseling to be able to get through issues, and we have those in Christian circles.
I was a part of a church that had to go through peacemaking. The conflict the things we weren't talking about got too bad because we were all talking about them.
Yeah.
But they're all not directly, not in the way that God and the good Lord intended. And this peacemaking group came in, and what they discovered, which they typically do in these situations, is that everyone's got issues.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everyone's got issues. Everyone needs to confront those demons, those addictions, those sins.
Yeah.
And the biggest recommendation they recommended was to the pastor to get counseling for some hurt that he had discovered, and we discovered through this process that we didn't know that how hurt he was.
Yeah.
And he refused and said there are people in this church that need counseling more than me. Probably true.
Yeah.
Probably true, but as a leadership,
right.
As a leadership, it's top down. Yeah. Like, what way are you going to lead the people? By saying counseling is good. Everybody needs help. I'll be the first to go.
Yes, yeah, that's what.
And then please, and then I'm going to do it for a week and tell you how awesome it is, and then bring you over because I can see some things that this could be helpful for you.
Right.
And it really that hurt me for the church for sure, but for that person because I wanted to, knowing the hurt they had discovered, that they had happened to them, I really wanted to see them released from that, and find full acceptance of my love, my newfound love, knowing that story, and the church's love, knowing that story, and also God's love. So that was very interesting. The one thing was interesting, you were dropping all these like addictions, and I always drop sugar because that's still one of mine. I get up chocolate for a few years now, but I still I need to give up sugar too because I'll go back to the peanut butter candy bars now.
Those Snickers.
Payday.
Woo!
Yeah. But what's interesting is you were mentioning porn and alcoholism, and we haven't touched on other substance abuses. What was it? Jealousy, all those addictions, those mental addictions. It reminded me a lot of the Bible talking about some sins and just putting in these simple ones in there, like lying next to
right. It's like they're all the same.
It's all the same.
There's no worse. There's no But
you're right. There's taboo that a lot of times pornography. I struggle with porn. Thank you for saying that on the show and allowing me to confess. But we can always say like, well, I struggle with being too humble.
Yeah, right. Fake humility is a real thing.
Yeah,
that is.
And I think that's it's just being open and honest. We've got this this good God who showed us a great example of humility. Mm-hmm. But the fake humility. Yeah. We can get rid of that and maybe bring Jesus back.
Right. Yeah. And I think exactly what you just said is what the greatest pro of Christianity, of Jesus' love is that the true heart of people who really believe in Jesus and really want to like spread his word and continue his kingdom is that when you see someone else, like what you were saying with the pastor, it's like when you see that hurt and when you see that just absolute like desperation for God's peace and for his like what's the word I'm looking for his intervention in your life, for him to cut through the stream of everything that's happening and to stop the world for you. When you want that so much for someone else and you're praying and you're just like ready to do whatever you can for someone else to experience God, even if it's more than what you're experiencing or something that you want for yourself really badly, but all you can hear in your heart, all that you can feel is how much you want something greater for someone else. It conquers everything, and it creates an environment where people are selfless. And how they can learn to be selfless through the example of other people. I have had to learn very much how to be selfless. Very much.
Teach me your ways.
It's. I mean, I'm not all the way there, but it's just like there's so many experiences that I've been through where even when it comes to like jealousy, where someone had just achieved something that I had wanted for so long, and I felt like I was much more worthy of achieving, and to have that same person like, in that same circle, and then to realize that as much as I want that, as much as I want what it is that they've achieved that I thought I would have achieved by now, or that I even wanted myself, and then when I look at them and when I spend time with them, all I can think of is how happy I am for them because I've let God come into my soul and really come into my being and like take that away from me.
Wow.
And it's like a constant thing. Obviously, it's like I was just saying. I volunteer with these youth students, that's not really like a real youth program. It's very much something that we're like putting together. It's really just a couple of kids in South Philly that we spend time mentoring with my church, the church I'm with now, Story Philly, and we do it at a church at 3rd and Snyder called SAC. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what the oh my gosh, I can't remember what it stands for, but SAC. But Snyder Avenue
Community?
Church something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. But I was telling our students that all of them are still like very much getting to know God. Like they don't come from like Christian households. They don't fully understand every part of the Bible. We told them about Job the other day, and they were like, "Wow, that's crazy." Like, I've never heard of that. And of course, for me, as someone who just grew up in a Christian household, it's like, yeah, I know about Job. That's my guy. I know about him. Like, but I was telling them, on a very simple level, what life looks like, committing it to Jesus is not, wow, this whole room is clean. Everything's organized, everything's neat, it smells great. It's going to feel like that at first. And then life's going to happen. You're going to come in, you're going to kick off your dirty shoes. You're going to forget to do the laundry, and then by the time that you do it, you're just going to bring all the clean folded clothes and put it on top of other stuff. Yeah. You're going to get paperwork, you're going to leave it in places, you're going to, it's going to be a mess again, and you're going to be overwhelmed, and you're going to be stressed, and you just have to keep coming back to God to clean that space. You have to keep inviting Him in and saying, wow, what am I doing wrong? Where am I sinning? Where am I struggling? Where am I understanding you wrong, God? Like, where do I have the incorrect perception of who you are and how you love me? I just had a really real conversation with my parents the other day about misconceptions that I was having about God, misconceptions that I was having about forgiveness, because one of the things I probably struggle with the most is beating myself up too much, which also can sound like a humble brag. Oh, my biggest issue is that I'm too hard on myself. It's like I can't get it right. But all of those are just very real things. I'm very thankful to have my parents who are don't cut corners. They don't BS me. Even at 22 years old, they will still very much so say you were doing that wrong, and I'm thankful that they raised me, and that somehow I've still been able to keep the attitude of asking them for that, it's just, but it's all come from other people's pouring into me. And I've just had some awesome people in my life who poured into me and told me hey, you have a hard time taking criticism. That was a big thing I used to struggle with when I was in high school. I hated taking criticism. And the next thing that I struggle with in college, the next thing that I struggle with as an adult, all those little things that I'm bad at doing. I'm just glad that I've had people in my life who say, you don't ask for other people's opinions enough. You think that your opinion is the best opinion, and you think your plan is the best thing. And I'm just glad I was able to have someone say that to me. And even if I was mad at them in the moment, I actually would sit down and realize that and say, oh man, I need to ask more people to come into my life and help me figure out things, instead of just thinking I have the best answer every single time. And all of those things have come from, to bring it back around full circle, people who really do believe in Jesus, and believe in his word, and believe in love above all else. They believe in his love. And part of love is honesty.
This is an awesome conversation, man. I had a couple more, and then couple more questions here, and then a few more that we always save for our patrons over on Funny&Amen's patrons. So if you're not a patron, please go check us out at patreon.com/funny&amen. That's patreon.com/FUNNYANDAMEN. That's a lot of digits. Rob was giving us the follow the bouncing finger. All right, so a couple more questions. What draws you to a religious? You volunteer some places. You attend church on the regular-ish, maybe.
A little bit harder on Zoom, not gonna lie.
Yeah. What draws you to church, to attend religious services?
Man, well, for a long time it was the habit, but it's the people, it's the relationships. In a church where I didn't have relationships and I didn't have a very strong community, I didn't stay. And that's the biggest thing for me, is knowing that I'm coming to get fed, but I'm coming to engage, to fellowship with other people, to worship with other people, to pray for other people, to carry the burdens, to be able to know what my brother is going through, to know what my sister is going through, and to be able to contribute towards making their life a little bit better in a way that only God can provide that opportunity. Simple stuff like helping people move, or I don't know, taking them to the airport.
Yeah.
Simple stuff like that.
Community stuff, yeah.
Yeah, all the way up to big stuff like taking them to the hospital at 3 a.m. I didn't do that because I missed your call. I was asleep. But
very specific answer.
I'm glad that I was one of those people who got texted.
Yeah.
Even though I was asleep. But the next person that she texted was someone else in the church who was able to take
awesome.
her.
Awesome. Hopefully you weren't too far down the list.
Yeah.
So
I should have been further down the list.
This has been an amazing conversation. Absolutely amazing. It gives me some other things to question about. I got 2 more questions for you, but they're only for our patrons, only on patreon.com, and those questions are, what happens after you die?
Ooh.
And why are we here? So, Rob Mitchell, thank you so much.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you
Absolute
so much for having me. This has been like a total blast.
Great time, man.
Loved every second.
Thank you very much to our sponsors. Thank you very much to our patrons. I'm Kevin Hackenberg. This is Rob Mitchell. Please check him out at mitchellmedia.net. And we're at funny&amen.com. You check out our YouTube. The rest of Rob's interview will be there. youtube.com/funny&amen. Have a great time and see you next Sunday.